Thank you. I've got two questions. One first question is, in as far as the longevity of life, there is a theological question why our lifespan getting shorter from 900 years up to the flood about 600 years, now it's 70 years. That we live longer than 100 years, men come too mischievous and get evil deeds. So God cut it down to 70. That's my first question. So you can answer that. And the other question is, I'm so thankful for the last 4 days. I studied geology, and what you explained to me now, I'm so happy. In geology, the rock formation or the geological from that is like our Bible, geology. But when you explain to me that all has formed from a flood, it really opens up the minds of especially students who are doing earth science. And I'm so happy with that. And it's probably if you can enlighten us on the dinosaur with footprints of human beings. Geology classes, they will never tell you those things. Thank you.
In regards to your first question, that's already been addressed. I think for sake of time, those questions are duplicate. You can catch the gentleman afterwards. I think that'll just save us time so we're not repeating everything. As far as your second question, I'll let Dr. Baugh answer that.
I appreciate the fact that you recognize that questions in geology and statements that have been considered by the geologic community to be true have been seriously questioned by their own colleagues. Many geologists are involved in our works. In Glen Rose, now I'm not a geologist, in Glen Rose, Texas, I work in the rocks. I've discovered and directed the excavation of 16 different dinosaurs. Most of those were in Colorado. But one of those, one primary dinosaur, Acrocanthosaurus, was in Glen Rose, embedded in the Cretaceous rock. That Cretaceous rock, as all the basic layers, geologic layers, that Cretaceous rock is sedimentary. Sedimentary rock is only laid down by moving water with a lot of mud and material in it, as geologists recognize worldwide. This Cretaceous layer that we work in isn't just a localized area. It extends literally around the globe and even covers Australia, it covers New Zealand, it covers portions of Fiji, but where it is monitored, it covers Africa, Asia, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Europe, the United States, Canada, South America, and all in between. The only way to get a sedimentary layer that literally blankets the entire globe is to have a worldwide flood. Recently, one of our colleagues, Dr. Henry Morris, was interviewed by the press, and I think he made a very astute statement. The journalist from the press said, "But sir, geologically, doesn't the Earth look old?" And Dr. Morris said, "No, it looks flooded." And it does. It looks flooded, so that gives an appearance of age. But in that flood are one other factor that I would mention, and I appreciate your respect for those that you've listened to this week. In those sedimentary deposits, we have discovered polystrate fossils. Nova was filming over my shoulder as we excavated a polystrate fossil. Polystrate fossil is a fossil that runs from one strait or layer, one stratum or layer, through numerous layers. One particular fossil is a lepidophyllous moss, club moss, and it runs through what has been, by standard interpretation, 5 million years of evolutionary time. There is no way that club moss could have remained in place for 5 million years. But when you examine those layers that extend essentially near and often worldwide, it was simply in place as the sediments rapidly formed over it. One of our primary consultants at the Creation Evidence Museum was Professor M.E. Clark, University of Illinois. a world-class fluid dynamicist. He demonstrated that the evidence for the water of a worldwide flood was obvious when you have the physical effect of the moon bringing that water into resonance. Every 12 hours you have a new layer formed. And he's a world-class fluid dynamicist. So instead of 5 million years forming, just a matter of weeks passed while that was in place. And that explains so much in the geologic record. Thank you, sir.
And I think specifically about dinosaur footprints with the human
the dinosaur
footprint.
footprints. I'm glad you mentioned that because I've had the privilege of directing the excavation of over 600 dinosaur footprints. That's probably more than any other individual on Earth, and it's not that I'm trying for any kind of a record. Over 600 dinosaur footprints, and among them, over 90 human footprints. And at the Creation Evidence Museum, we have a panel where Richard Dawkins, the world's leading atheist of our generation, and the late Stephen Jay Gould and others published statements saying that if we, in our excavations, or some of our colleagues in their work, could actually show that man and dinosaur did live simultaneously at the same time, that would destroy evolutionary theory, just destroy it. And those are their words, published often in the popular and sometime in the technical literature. Then they go on to ridicule and say, but they will never prove that. Well, let's take one additional paragraph. Back in 1918, Charlie Moss discovered the first human footprints among the dinosaur footprints near Glen Rose after a flood ripped up a ledge of limestone. They were recognized as being genuine, and during the American Depression, individuals at Glen Rose would cut them out of the rock and sell them for $30 or $40, which was a lot of money in the Depression. One enterprising gentleman, George Adams, who actually discovered the first theropod Acrocanthosaurus footprints near Glen Rose, but he did that as a teenager, but as an adult he said there's an easier way to get footprints. So he carved some footprints under a shade tree and sold them. The evolutionary community had an out. Anytime we discover a new human footprint or a trail of human footprints, the evolutionary community hearing about it says, well, everybody knows the human footprints are carved, but would wait just a moment. And then they hang up. They won't listen further. And that's very unfortunate. They should be objective. We're trying to be objective. The following is true. We now have scientific technology to determine whether a footprint has been carved or is genuine. When a dinosaur steps in mud, or a human steps in mud, or a cat steps in mud, it makes a depression and compresses the mud into tiny layers. Those layers record in the rock. When we excavate a footprint on private property, on public property, we do not take them out. In fact, we don't excavate on public property, only on private property. When we excavate on private property and take the footprint out and take it to the laboratory, we have removed the layer above it. We've gone through the clay marl, at least 4 inches of clay marl, to gently excavate it so there is no chance of contamination or fraud. We take the footprint to the laboratory for spiral CAT scan. The spiral CAT scan reads through the rock and the compression density to show that it is genuine. One of the original carved footprints was discovered recently. We took it to the laboratory. It had no compression density underneath. No compression whatsoever. It was carved. It wouldn't have. But alongside that were original human footprints that were genuine, and dinosaur footprints that were genuine, and they had the compression density. In spite of the ridicule of the atheistic community, there is evidence in Australia, in Utah, but centrally in Texas because it has gotten more publicity than any other, as well as Russia, a series of human footprints found with dinosaur footprints, and Turkmenistan as well, a long series of human and dinosaur footprints. But the place of central focal attention is Glen Rose, Texas, and we have on display at the Creation Evidence Museum some of the original dinosaur footprints and some of the original human footprints with the spiral CAT scans to verify their authenticity. So we have the evidence in place, and I'd love for you to come and I would personally show you the evidence, because that's a central question. And the evolutionary community has mockingly said, if that's true, evolution is totally falsified, but it can't be true. One other paragraph. The world's two leading atheists, the late Stephen Jay Gould and Richard Dawkins, who is currently alive, who is the world's noted atheist of this generation, both came to the Creation Evidence Museum in Texas. I'm the founder and director of that museum. Both of them were shown the Burdick print, a human footprint found in the same layer with the dinosaur footprints. Both of these eminent scholars, world class, and I do not question their credentials in their fields, but when they get into this area of philosophy which denies evidence, it becomes evident. For each of them said, looking at that footprint, they didn't say it was false, they just said it's impossible, impossible, and turned and walked away because it violated their religion. The evidence is there. Thank you, sir.